When my sister and her husband told me they were moving in, I welcomed them without hesitation. Times were tough, and I thought it would be nice to help family out. Plus, our house had the extra room, and I liked the idea of having them close. At first, everything seemed fine. They unpacked quietly, helped with groceries, and acted like model guests. I even cooked their favorite meals once or twice. I thought this arrangement might actually work. But soon, things started to change. Her husband, Greg, began making rules about what we could eat, when the TV could be on, even which bathroom I was allowed to use. I tried to ignore it at first, thinking he was just trying to be polite. But the rules got stricter. No music after 8 p.m., no visitors without his approval, and he even had the audacity to tell me how to organize my own kitchen. I realized I wasn't dealing with a guest anymore. I was living with a dictator, and I wasn't about to let them take over my home. So I started keeping track. Every time Greg made a ridiculous rule, I quietly made small changes to counter it. If he said no music, I'd play it softly when he wasn't around. If he rearranged the furniture, I'd switch it back at night. At first, he didn't notice. He thought he was in control. He even bragged to my sister about how he was running the house now. That's when I knew it was working. One evening, he put up a strict schedule for chores. I waited until he went to bed, then casually forgot to follow it the next morning. I made sure my sister saw me breaking the rules, but in a harmless, non-confrontational way. Greg started getting frustrated. He would mutter under his breath, pacing the living room, clearly upset that his authority was being challenged. My sister tried to calm him, but I could see she was starting to question his behavior too. I upped the stakes. I organized a surprise dinner for everyone, a small gesture that I knew he wouldn't approve of. He came home to find friends over, laughter in the kitchen, and no one asking his permission. He tried to intervene, but the energy in the house had shifted. Guests ignored his protests, and my sister looked at him with a mix of amusement and doubt. It was clear the rule-maker was losing ground. From that point on, I made it a point to subtly undermine every ridiculous rule. Greg would suggest something, I'd comply in the most literal and inconvenient way possible, and he'd end up looking ridiculous. One day, he tried to ban snacks from the living room. I put out a tray of cookies on the table, right under the no food sign he had made. My sister laughed, and even he had to admit it was clever. The final straw came when he tried to control the thermostat, insisting the house be unbearably cold. I quietly moved a space heater into my room, leaving him to argue with the air itself. By the end of the month, my sister admitted she was grateful I hadn't let her husband take over. She confessed she'd almost forgotten how fun the house could be when we all acted like equals. Greg eventually stopped making rules altogether. He realized that trying to control my home was a losing battle, and any attempt at authority was met with clever resistance. I didn't make things confrontational. I didn't escalate. I simply used patience, observation, and a little strategic defiance to reclaim my space. In the end, my sister and her husband learned an important lesson. A home is shared, but it's not a kingdom to be ruled. Respect is earned, not enforced. They moved in with me thinking they could take control, but by the time they settled, they had learned who really ran the house. And I learned that sometimes the best way to handle a controlling guest is to fight smart, not hard, with patience, humor, and a touch of clever revenge.